guys, and welcome to a new video on Sonal's life. 2 videos in a row. Yesterday I was talking about Hikuleo and his kind of WWE debut, but we are back to New Japan. And before you come at me and before you want to know, no, this is not going to be a very negative video. And if anyone's wondering why I'm prefacing with that, because we had a very divisive, a very controversial New Japan Dominion show. Dominion being, I guess, the second biggest show of the year, technically, after Wrestle Kingdom. There was a lot going on, and I mean, one of the biggest ones, as you can tell by the empty gap in my wall. But we will get to that when we get to that. Like I said, it's going to be very divisive. I personally am not as negative as I've seen the discourse online. However, let's just get going. So as always, before the show started, we started with our young lions. So we had Katsuya Murashima and Shoma Kato facing Daiki Nagai and Yasuda. 4 of the mainstays. We obviously have a few new young lions, including Alex Zane, who have been seen. But this was a very nice match, showcasing who is really on top here. And because we saw Murashima get the win over Yasuda. Now, Yasuda was actually slated to be one of the top young lions, but he had a very unfortunate injury. So Murashima has actually been one of the standouts. And with what I'm thinking, rumours coming of people maybe returning, e.g. Youngblood, I think it might be time for Murashima to make his excursion. He has done a lot, he has gained a lot of confidence in the ring and personality-wise, so that would be very interesting. We then got off to the start of the show. So this is kind of, I guess, maybe where the issues for a lot of people happen. It was House of Torture facing the War Dogs. And obviously, there's a lot of House of Torture in this show. It's quite a lot of House of Torture, actually. But they'd been teasing a new member. So actually, initially, surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, and actually I wasn't too issued with this, is that Fale was the newest member. And I think they've called him now Don Fale. Now, while this is not a massive issue, because I guess, Fale was never the best wrestler, the fact he has moved away from the Bullet Club, he was one of the founding members, remember? So this is huge in that sense. The big issue in this match, Sanada came out in a really weird outfit. Go online and search it. I can't defend that man anymore. He's my ex-husband. I still love him, but that outfit was just not it. The match itself was fine. I guess the big thing at the end was there was a disqualification. Or actually, maybe it wasn't. Sanada won. He beat Driller because there was another new member of War Dogs as Chase Owens turned on the War Dogs, which, I mean, is unsurprising as Chase Owens at the end of the day. So there were 2 new members. Now, I think initially people were quite surprised. They were, a bit disappointed as well because they made this massive thing of, new members and stuff, and it seemed quite disappointing. You guys cursed this. You cursed this show because you said you wanted something better, and I will talk about that, which is the reason for this empty point. This is all your fault. We then had, surprisingly, one of my favourite matches, and it wasn't even a big match. It was a tag match between Zack Sabre Jr. and Oiwa, so TMDK, facing Shota Umino and the new boyfriend, ELP. This was phenomenal. It went 11 minutes, but actually it was so good. It's nice to see Oiwa and Shota in the ring. These 2 are very big, muscly men. Obviously, Shota is there in this class, and Oiwa was just 1 rank below. So he was in the class below. So this was really nice. You had the 2 guys doing the big heavy stuff, but then when you got to ELP and Zap, they had a bit more of technical, a bit more flashy choreography style with roll-ups and reversals and things. Oiwa and Shota have a great chemistry in the ring, and Zach and ELP have a great connection in the ring. And actually, we'll speak about this later because there was the announcement of the G1 blocks. So this was really fun, actually, and I kind of want to see more of these singles things, because what's especially funny is obviously a few weeks ago, or even a month ago, ELP and Zack were being buddy-buddy when they were abroad promoting New Japan, so yeah, this was really fun. The next match was the next stop of Hiroshi Tanahashi's retirement tour. We saw Hiroshi Tanahashi facing Yuya Uemura. Yuya Uemura is almost giving me exactly what Tanahashi is. Although he started in just 4 guys, just 5 guys, there's just 3 guys, which we'll talk about later. It's all very confusing, guys. Uemura is very firmly fit into Hontai. He does charity work. He's big on promoting New Japan and being an ambassador. Exactly like Tanahashi does. So this felt like the perfect match. I've said this, and even in this match, Tanahashi knows his weaknesses. He knows his flaws. So he has been adapting his style to that. Uemura was doing the flashy moves and things like that, whereas you could see that Tana was trying not to move across the ring and focusing on the style that he knows is going to come off the best. And actually it was quite interesting. So he did his high fly flow, how he attempted to, and it missed. And so Uemura went up to the top rope. And if anyone remembers, and this has been a continuing storyline since Uemura has come back from excursion, that he injured himself in the Yota Tsuji match last year by jumping off the top rope. And even today, you could see he was doubting himself, which led to an issue when he jumped off with his arm, which was obviously, again, injured. Now, this led actually surprisingly to a roll-up, which saw Tanahashi win. Now, at first, I was shocked. Tanahashi hasn't been losing all of these matches, actually, in his retirements. In that sense, it wasn't like Tanahashi has to lose because of this case. But actually, the storytelling makes sense. This showcases that Uemura is still very unsure of himself. And also, this comes up with the stuff that's happening later on, Tanahashi cannot be doubted. Yes, he is on his retirement tour, but he's not been the ace for over 20 years for no reason. He still has that heart and soul in him. And I think that this is going to lead to a bigger storyline with the ace versus the son of New Japan. And there was a lot of rumblings going around of maybe the retirement match come January could be against Yuya Uemura. This is not the end. This is sort of like the buffer match, I believe, and we're going to see it again. You probably wondered, Samuel, why at the start did you show us an empty pocket on your wall? Because we then saw the IWGP Junior tag match for the titles, which saw, well, it was meant to be Yoshinobu Kanemaru and Sho facing Yo and Wato. Please don't ask me what happened in this match because I didn't watch it. Because Uncle Noble came out injured. He had a problem with his arm. Whether it was real or not, we do not know. But then we were like, oh God, there's a new member of House of Torture. Who is it going to be? Who is it going to be? It was this man. It was my husband, Doki. How many husbands do I have to divorce because of House of Torture? So Doki has been injured since Wrestle Kingdom in January the 4th, which I was there, and it was an awful injury in his match against Desperado, which seen him out for, it's been 6 months over. And when he came out, the crowd seemed shocked. And I posted a video of me taking down the poster and everything, and I was upset, and I was like blaming everyone, like, this is your fault. And actually, I want to say this because there was a lot of negative and quite just a lot of hate going forward, and my, like, reactions was sort of a place of, like, I love Doki, I loved him as a babyface. But a lot of people were more of, like, this makes no sense, this is stupid, Doki's a babyface, it doesn't make sense. Taking off my biggest Doki fan in the world, and I just did a Just For Guys picture, and now I can't use Doki, this makes a hell of a lot of more sense than you think. A hell of a lot more sense than actually any of the guys who are in House of Torture at the moment. First things first, Doki came as a member of Suzuki-gun. He came as a heel, right? That's a big one. 2, who else was in Suzuki-gun when Doki was there? And who actually did he partner with due to Desperado's injury? Yoshinobu Kanemaru. 3, when Just For Guys decided they were going to join Hontai, and this whole allegiance happened, who wasn't there? Doki. He might have made a link to this when he appeared at Takataichi Mania. But actually he said, I'm going to be there for Just For Guys, not Hontai. So actually, if he has been watching everything that's been going on, he's seen that his friends who he thought were actually on his side and had the same approach to him as pro wrestling leave to go to Hontai. That would make him bitter. He's seeing all these new kids. He saw Fujita get the win. He was almost being forgotten. Like, people forgot, oh, Doki? Oh, God, yeah, he had that great run, but, like, we've got so many other people. So he's going to be bitter. And actually, this is a man who comes out with a steel pipe. He is heel through and through. So it makes sense. Am I happy that it's happened? No. I'm worried that we're not going to see Doki perform the best to visibility anymore, because we've noticed that when they go to House of Torture, they suddenly lose their ability to wrestle. But storyline-wise, it makes sense. Doki is that heel. He's always had that persona of a heel. And when people are complaining about, like, this is awful, this is shit, Doki deserves this and this, you forget that actually Doki will have had a say in this. they will have said to him, right, we have this idea, you're going to come back and you're going to be a member of House of Torture. Doki would have had the chance to say no. While I always say that, they don't have an influence on booking, if it's going to impact them in such a way as going from a babyface to a heel, I assume they would have it. This obviously meant that Sho and Doki beat Wato and Yo for the titles. I don't know what's going to go next for my Wato and Yo, but obviously this is very much focused on Doki. And I think this is, I guess, where the grievances started, because this seemed like a very House of Torture heavy show. I think we've been kind of blessed, okay, that House of Torture have not really had a big part in anything, really. Best of Super Junior, they weren't that important. New Japan Cup and things. So we took a breather. But House of Torture are always going to be there. They are that main heel faction. They're the only heel faction now. So we've got to expect the shenanigans. And yeah, I personally, aside from a personal standpoint, I understood it. And I'm just going to keep an eye out for this. We then had another title change, actually. But this match, you'll be happy to know, there was no House of Torture. And it was kind of a good way to sort of bring the crowd back up after Doki's heel turn. We saw the IWGP Heavyweight Tag title be put on the line. So it is the champions, Great-O-Khan and Callum Newman, facing My Holy Emperor, Taichi and Tomohiro Ishii. Now this match was great. These four have a very good chemistry. We know that Ishii and Taichi are doing very well together. Ishii has had great chemistry with Okan. Taichi specifically has had great matches with Oka, especially when he was the King of Pro Wrestling title. And Callum Newman fitted in very perfectly, because you've got three very big, strong men who focus on muscle. But then you have Callum Newman, who I guess is the anomaly of he's strong. He's put on a lot of muscle since he went heavyweight, but he's extremely fast, and this match was extremely dynamic. And what I loved is just these two men are in their 40s. There was the long-going conversation of Khan sent these two old fogies and that we're gonna lead it, and this sort of sparked a fire in Taichi. In the lead up to this, we are still here. It's been a common consensus with all of the older guys, like Shingo, Goto, Zack, of yes, we're pushing the new generation, but you can't forget about us. And despite being betrayed yet again, because we are just three guys, or maybe not even that, Ishii and Taichi won the IWGP Tag titles, and this is so exciting. Taichi obviously has won in the past with Dangerous Tech, because Ishii has very big tag team experience as well, and that means he's now double champ, because he's the New Japan Strong Openweight champion, so that's very exciting. We then took a little break. We had the announcement of the G1 blocks. I'm not going to really go through it in detail, because obviously I've got a preview that will come before the show, but for A block we have Hiroki Goto, Bolton Oleg, Uemura, Tsuji, Finlay, Evil, Sanada, Tanahashi. Excitingly, Tanahashi for his final year is making his comeback to the G1. And in Block B, we have ELP, Shota Umino, Shingo Takagi, Zack Sabre Jr., Great-O-Khan, Gabe Kidd, Narita, and Takeshita. Now, there will be 4 extra spots, 2 in each block. It's very interesting, there are a lot of big names missed out. Taichi, Ishii, Yoshihashi, Callum Newman. The list is endless. Oh, Dan Maloney as well, Driller, he is also not in it. So that will be happening in the next week or so at the New Japan Social, so that will be interesting to see. We then got back to the matches. We had, for the Never Openweight Championship, Bolton Oleg facing the champion Konosuke Takeshita. I've been a critic of Bolton Oleg, and to an extent I still am with his character and stuff. But actually, in ring, I can't fault Bolton Oleg at all. His match with Takeshita was phenomenal. These two, Takeshita also shout out to the white gear, which I absolutely loved. Takeshita came out in his white gear, and actually he was dominating Oleg for a lot of it. But Oleg is absolutely phenomenal. He is very big, very strong, but he is also very agile. We saw it within the opening matches. They were both doing tope con hilos. I assume it was that. They went over the top rope. Within the opening seconds, they were so fast, they were so quick. And obviously Takeshita had been announced for the G1, and I kind of assumed that, and this has been reported for about a week or so, that he was going to retain. But shockingly, our Bolton Oleg, our little young lion, our little wrestler from Kazakhstan, won the title. Now, initially, I would probably be a bit shocked by this, but I see this as a very good point for the future. The Never title has now been raised in prestige with the help of Takeshita. But Takeshita has, I guess, outgrown it because Never is an IWGP. Whereas Oleg perfectly seems to match the style that Never has been associated with. While it was once linked to the younger guys, it's now linked to the bigger, stronger, athletic men. So I think Oleg is going to do very well with that. We then had the dog collar pound match between David Finlay and Evil. Now, I want to preface and say I haven't watched a lot of these kind of matches, if any. And if anyone walked in on me seeing two men linked together with dog collars and chains, then they were probably going to think a lot of kinky shit. So I didn't think it was that bad on the overall, but other people have told me otherwise. This was actually, for the large majority of this match, it was very good. They focused on the brutality of it. There was a lot of quite dangerous moves with these chains. There was actually not much blood, and I think it's because I've worked out Finlay is not an easy bleeder. I've worked these out in the 2 steel cage matches. And it was quite a lot of fun seeing how they're working with this chain, a very foreign object for guys in New Japan. But then the win from House of Torture happened really because every member of House of Torture got involved. Every one of them. There is like 10 of them now. So they called it as a referee stoppage because Marty Sami got knocked out, so it was Sakamoto doing it. I think luckily this was where the House of Torture thing ended, but this is where the issues happen. And you know what? I fully understand. House of Torture is shit. They're not a good faction. However, it was always going to happen. They were always going to have this big stage. At some point, they were going to have to rebuild themselves, especially after losing the match to Finlay. This match also did quite badly affect Finlay. However, I think due to the fact that he lost with interference, I think we can still hope but I understand. I just think that, I think maybe he should have been lower, or it should have been on a different show. But actually, it wasn't the worst House of Torture match I've seen, and I guess it's not saying much, but that's the case. We then got up to the last 2 matches, so the semi-main event and the main event, and we saw Gabe Kidd facing Tsuji for the global title. You can watch my past video. I won't dwell on all the issues going on with AEW and Gabe Kidd and the whole Death Riders. You can look on social media actually for that as well. But you could see that his whole thing with the Death Riders and not actually addressing it at the press conference did impact him. Because the crowd seemingly weren't as hot for him as they normally are, especially in Osaka, which we joke is War Dog country. Now, this match, I think it was going to be very hard to match up to the caliber of the New Beginnings match, which I think for many was a match of the year contender. But this was very good. I'm going to say I had a few issues. He had the Death Rider knee. He did, I think, the Death Rider move. He did the Claudio Castagnoli. But generally, this match was actually very good. Gabe and Tsuji know each other so well. They were in the dojo together. They were at the same level. There was a lot of camaraderie with them. And you could see this. They have very similar styles as well. Very rough, very tough. And this meant that actually the match flowed very well. Similarly, as I mentioned before, these two are very diverse guys when it comes to ring style. Yes, they're very strong, but they're also very fast. Similarly to Kesha and Oleg, they were flipping outside the ring, doing moonsaults and all sorts. Something actually that Gabe Kidd is doing a lot more. And it's quite nice to see. Tsuji, I think we've always known this. Obviously, he went on his excursion in the UK and CMLL, so he has that luchador in him. So it was interesting. Surprisingly, and I think it was kind of overshadowed by the Death Rider, but Gabe Kidd won. Now, I'm going to say, this is not as Gabe Kidd as a person. Gabe Kidd is a wrestler. I have followed him for years. Hell, when I was doing a blog, he was actually, I think, the first wrestler I ever interviewed. So I'm very happy that he got that. And I'm the crowd seemed happy when he was doing his speech and stuff. And I'm just sad that this Death Rider stuff actually set an overcast on what would have been an amazing moment for Gabe. If this had happened a few months ago before Gabe had made his AEW debut with the Death Riders, the house would have been blown off. You would have seen a true divide in fans between Tsuji and Gabe, because Gabe has always been popular. Now, yes, the crowd hotted up towards the end. They were very excited. They loved it. But this AEW cloud is going to continue to loom over Gabe. So he needs to either directly address it or sort it out, because for people like me who have watched Gabe's journey and the highs and lows, we want to support him. We want to be happy for him, but we can't when that's there. Now, he did a nice speech in the center. He called out Shacho Tanahashi, so it seems like Gabe's next competitor will be the ace, and this makes sense. Tanahashi was there for Gabe when he was a young lion. There's been a lot of really nice stories about it. But then Gabe called out Tanahashi for all the House of Torture bullshit, which is kind of ironic because now Gabe is in a faction that has House of Torture shit. But yeah, it's really sad that Gabe's first IWGP major title run has been overshadowed by that, but I'm still happy for him. And similar with Takeshita, while I'm sad for Tsuji, I hope that this means that going into the G1, they have big things for him. And we then finished the night. You know what? It's been a rocky show. But who are two people you can trust to make a show top notch? It is the family man, Hiroki Goto, IWGP champion, facing the leader of us singletons, Shingo Takagi. Now, if it wasn't bad enough, you know, Shingo doesn't have anything Goto has. He doesn't have a belt. He doesn't have a faction. He doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have kids. Goto also had Yoshihashi, so now Shingo can see I also don't have a work husband. But all jokes aside, the storyline building up to this was very, very good. I enjoyed the feud between the two of them. The Shingo and Goto have had such a big history, and I believe their last match, or maybe their last title match, was during the pandemic, when Shingo was champion. So this match, I had a lot of high hopes for, and it delivered in every way. Shingo was using that bitterness he has against Hiroki Goto to play almost the heel. But, I mean, I say play the heel. The crowd was still very firmly split. Like, going into it, they were obviously shouting, Goto, Goto, because Goto, honestly, is probably one of the most popular champions we've seen in a very long time, in all of professional wrestling. But Shingo Takagi. They were throwing everything out there. They were going to top rope. They went to the outside. In particular, there was a really quite brutal, like, was it a Yushigoroshi or something? When Shingo was actually outside on the metal barrier near English commentary. There was a powerbomb where I saw Goto flip over. Shingo was also doing his best. Made in Japan. Last of the Dragon. Actually, initially, the first Last of the Dragon didn't actually get him the win. And I was sat on the edge of my seat because I'm like, I am firmly here for the Goto revolution. I have been a Goto fan for years. I remember the first time I ever saw Goto, I was like enamored by this person, this persona of the samurai. But Shingo stole my heart with his hashtag single life shtick that he's been doing. I love these two guys. They are the epitome of, like, you know what, like I mentioned with Taichi Nishii, yes, the future is very bright, but you still can depend on these guys who are in their mid to late 40s to put on an amazing match. And in the end, Goto won. He picked up the win with his patented finisher. And there was a sign of respect between the two guys. Hilariously, it's been, I don't know, he's on like defense number 9 or 8 or something, because he's basically defending this every few weeks. Yoshihashi still struggles to put the belt on him. I think it took even longer this time, and even with the help of Red Shoes, this just wasn't happening. But he got into the ring, he thanked everyone, and he obviously did a little comment as Shingo left. Now, interestingly, in the backstage comments, he called out Zack Sabre Jr. They obviously had their match at the Strong Show, which ended in a double pin, do you know what I mean? So Goto was like, I don't want to go into the G1 knowing that I've got unfinished business. And Zack came out. And surprisingly, and like we said, Goto it's his first heavyweight title run. He's going for as many defenses as he can. He said to Zack, and Zack agreed, I want it before the G1. I want to right this wrong. So we'll probably be waiting for an announcement for that. And it ended a very interesting show, but the show ended on a high. Now, I went on social media and I kind of felt a bit like downtrodden after seeing it because there was a lot of negativity. And actually, I get it. I get the issues which were all actually stemming from House of Torture, but we did have 4 very good matches. New Japan have been on a massive roll this year. They've put banger after banger after banger of show. So I think it was inevitable that it was going to have a show that maybe wasn't to everyone's taste. Was it the worst New Japan show I've ever watched? It's nowhere near it. I was there through the pandemic. I was there through Evil. Was it the best show of the year? No. Nowhere near it. It might have been maybe one of the worst shows of this year for New Japan. But I don't want to see New Japan is dead. This was awful. We've just got to hope that New Japan, they've set the track now, that they can build on this, that they can continue the year as they started it with Goto at the championship, or maybe Zack. And you know what? House of Torture inevitably are going to be there, but we've just got to hope that they're not too much at the forefront. And that this stuff with Gabe and AEW gets sorted out soon. So yeah, that was obviously my review. I am looking at it a lot more positively than a lot of the internet, just because, as you know, I'm the most positive New Japan fan in the world. But again, I can take where the critics are criticising. House of Torture is a pain in the arse and have the ability to ruin any show. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. You can be as brutal. You can say, Sonal, I disagree the hell with everything you're saying. You can say it in the comments. Let me know on social media at wrestling_chat. I will be here coming up. We've got the New Japan Soul shows coming up, and then the G1, which is going to be very busy. So make sure you hit like, share, and hit subscribe. It was definitely a divisive show. I didn't mind it, but hopefully at least you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon. Bye!